for him. And I think that kind of tricked other bigger countries like France to think that to not look and watch for him. So it's now that after he won that Kabila is saying, you know, as a democratic person, I respect the will. My candidate was number 3, so I will happily hand over. So there was a lot of game there. But bottom line, I think he's being sworn in. You have seen recognition and congratulation message, including from our country, Kenya, from European Union, from Britain, from US. Of course, France and Belgium are sour. They're not very happy with the results. Yes. You know, AU tried to intervene. Nobody understands what AU tried to do. East Africa community is divided because, you know, Uganda and then Burundi have different stand on this. So AU tried to say don't declare the results, but that was overruled. A lot of AU countries, including South Africa, I think was the first country in here to declare it. Or to congratulate the president-elect. So, yes, you're right, it's historical, might not be the perfect election, but it is an election that had very little foreign influence.
All right. And what does this particular election mean for the bilateral relations between the DRC and not just any other European nations? Let's talk about France and Belgium, because they have formidable influence, or they had formidable influence in the developments of this mineral-rich country.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think on this one, they didn't get their way. They tried to force a crisis, tried to use AU chair to stall the process, and I believe that there was diplomacy that went on to say, no, AU is not taking position on this. So this is not their candidate. And remember, they also were supported by the Catholic Church,
yes,
which is a very big organization and with a lot of members in Congo. But France have always seek to have their way, not just France, even US, but on this one, they lost. And then they were hoping for a best case scenario of this thing was so confused that maybe a coalition government seems like that could not be the way. We hope that they will not take it further. To remember, the other warlords were actually supporting Fayul, yeah, Bemba and all that. So these are serious people. So we hope that they will consider that this is the end of it. There is now the talk of secession, which is the plan B. Remember, there was part of Congo that had even gone to African Union to seek secession, and they were told, no, not yet. So there is that talk. France is not very happy, and because they didn't get their way. Remember, France said even before were very supportive to ICC that took Bemba. Yeah. And then that was one of the issues I raised with Bensouda, the ICC prosecutor, that when you go to Congo, of course, AU had been complaining that there is selective justice, but let us assume that fact and then say you have zeroed in Congo. There were a lot of evidence given that there were multiple actors, that this was an internationalized war. Yeah, yeah. Then they decided to only go for the African Congolese and leave alone big French companies, the Belgians, and didn't charge them. And so by only charging Africans, they made the Congo conflict look like a tribal thing, which is the narrative they wanted. But France have been very much inside. And on this one, obviously, I think the former president tricked them.
Exactly. Joseph Kabila won, France and Belgium nil. But now that Tshisekedi is about to take over the instruments of power, his interim must be full, especially actually fulfilling the economic strength of this particular country, number one. You raised the important issue about secession, bringing together the vast Democratic Republic of Congo. How should he focus in his next years in power? What should be his main area of focus?
And that's where I thought as East African countries, we were not helpful, because I hope as European Union have one position. You can see that in East African countries are divided on the same.
Yes.
And therefore they cannot be strategic. But when you look at his governance, obviously as the blessing of Kabila, but there are other people like Bemba who are out there. So for Congo, I think the studies have been done to confirm that Congo's minerals are, I don't know, twice or thrice GDP of Europe. So it's a very rich country. And because of that, they will always attract intermeddlers. I think it should focus on building Congo, should focus on peace, should not pull so much towards either Museveni on the other side or Burundi or Rwanda the other side, and should stay in the middle, because that could be part of the problem, that there are some community that are supported or share border or share ethnicity with the Rwandese, and therefore they owe allegiance to the other side. And so it should build on nationalism. And I think Congolese are ready for this. They are very resilient people. They are people who have demonstrated through this process almost to show that they didn't crack. People expected the worst, but you can see that the storm is over now.
Yes.
And they are celebrating.
Yes, and that's very important, and we'll definitely continue monitoring the developments in the DRC. But let's switch over to Zimbabwe and Sudan. Why I'm linking these two countries is because of the interlink between politics and economics of a particular country. Now, Zimbabwe is, well, it's well known. The President Emerson Mnangagwa triples the price of fuel in that particular country. And we know what economic implications it might have to the low majority, the low income majority in that particular country, irrespective of what the government is going through. In Sudan as well, the price of bread was also hiked, and this spiked unrest in that particular country, pushing for the ouster of
Khartoum.
Yes, in Khartoum, pushing for the ouster of al-Bashir. Now, kindly, let's delve deeper into the link between economics and politics. How well should a president manage between these two? Because, the government needs money on one side, and the people, the masses voted you in to make sure their benefits, and they're not really...
And the immediate, that if there is no bread, then the rest, however good a plan you might have, could not... people will not be patient to see it.
Yes.
But because you have been a very good moderator and with the depth, I want us to apply depth on this issue.
Okay.
Remember, both of these countries are reeling from sanctions from the West. Zimbabwe had more than 20 years of serious sanctions that you can't trade with any European or US. So where can your economy go? Sudan, serious sanctions.
They're even linked as a country funding terror,
Yes, and so US have hit Sudan with sanctions, because remember at some point Sudan was thought to be able to even take over from Libya and Gaddafi. They are rich, they are powerful, and they were identifying themselves less as Arab and more like Africans. And so when you look at the bigger picture, then the sanctions, the European country who sanctioned this country have sabotaged their economy. And then they sponsor civil society to say, look, you are ungovernable. What is wrong? Now, you see that happened so bad that Mugabe had to leave. Not to say that he should have overstayed, but still real sanctions. And you know that it has been found that whenever there are economic sanctions, embargo and whatever, you are not going to affect al-Bashir. You are going to affect a common person in the village. Even in Iraq, when the US had sanctions, the rate of immortality and life expectancy directly dropped for the poor. So now, these are leaders who have been hit by sanctions. Al-Bashir is sanctioned to death. What do? And you have to govern. But that is probably the essence of sanction, that when your people feel the heat too much, then they get the gravitas to say, you must go. So it is working the way whoever gave sanction wanted it to work. But it is also unfair for us or for the media to only say there is no bread and not look at these big countries that have something so much against this small economy that say we will never allow you in our market.
Well, that is really proper, looking at the bigger picture right there and delving deeper into the nitty-gritty details. Many thanks, Duncan Ojwang, who's a lecturer